The first section of the etude, or the first half of the first section of the etude, is very martial or very fanfare-ish in nature. So I would go ahead and use a strong articulation with a full sound through this section. Okay? The first thing, I think maybe the most efficient way to go through this is step by step, measure by measure. In the first measure, I would go ahead and play the second note of each of those eighth note groupings, the slurred eighth notes, short. Okay? And by this I mean da 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 da. Okay? I'll go ahead and demonstrate that on my horn. It has more of a fanfare quality to it than if you were to play tenuto on that second note. Okay? Alright, so once we've worked on those eighth notes, we see that we have two multiple tonguing sections in the upcoming two bars. Okay? So we have two 32nd note D flats leading to E flat. At this tempo, I like to use on trombone the syllables da-ga, da-ga-da, instead of tucka. And I find that using tucka tends to interrupt the sound, the tone, and the phrase, whereas da-ga has a tendency to propel the motion of the notes forward. Basically, you have to find out what works best for you. So I'd experiment with the different syllables and the different hardness of articulation to find clarity and at the same time lots of tone. Okay? For those D flats, I would also think about propelling them forward to the E flat. So instead of da, da, ga, da, I would think da, da, ga, da. Notice how I crescendo from the D flat to the E flat. Okay? One last thing, make sure that your slide isn't in transition to the E flat on the second D flat, but waits da-ga-da all the way to the E flat. Let me demonstrate a couple of these things. So here's without the crescendo. Here's with the crescendo. Here's in transition instead of at the right time. You can hear a little bit of slop in there. Now this time, I'm going to hold on the slide until the last minute to move to E flat. Okay, and using these techniques, I found that that gets me the most clarity and the most tone. Okay, the next grouping we have are some triplet 16th notes in measure 3, and those are on the pitch A. Okay? I use the Arbenz approach to triple tonguing, which is da-da-ga instead of da-ga-da. I think the reason that originally Arbenz picked da-da-ga, 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 da is because in a lot of fanfare, trumpet, and cornet playing at that time, there was a lot of these figures. Da-da-ga-da, 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 da-da-ga-da. And for me, that grouping of syllables tends to lead into the downbeat nicely. A lot of people use da-ga-da-da, da-ga-da-da, da-ga-da-da. Okay? So you just, again, have to experiment and find out what works best for you. For me, da-da-ga-da. Okay? And again, like with the D flats, make sure that you're crescendoing through those A's to the B natural, and you'll find that there's more tone through the phrase. Next we have some glisses, and what I would do is I would play the first note of each gliss in the regular position and then in the gliss position, which is written in there for you. Thank you, Timothy. Here's an example, D flat to F. So I would go. And notice that once I found that D flat in 5th position, then I started playing D flat F in stock positions, and then D flat F in the glissando positions. So I would do the same thing for the B flat to D. This is is a way to familiarize yourself with those gliss positions, get a little bit more comfortable with the phrase. The next thing that I think is important to talk about is where to breathe. And in this first section, I find that by breathing in two specific places, that I keep time moving forward and don't interrupt the overall rhythmic feel of the piece. Okay, and also don't disrupt the melodic flow of the piece and the phrase structure. So I like to hold off until the end of bar 3 between the 2 D flats to take my first breath. And in this way, I don't lose time through the first 3 bars. So I take a breath and retongue that D flat in 5th position, da 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 da, breath, da 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 da. Okay, so again, that would be breathing between the 2 D flats in bar 3 and just before bar 5. Okay, the next thing to look at, let's check out measure 5. Okay, and right here we have a grouping of 2 eighth notes. I would lean a little bit on the first of each of these 2 slurred eighth notes, the first eighth note of each grouping. Okay, I'll demonstrate that for you. Okay, you might have noticed instead of going all the way into first, for F, G flat to F, I went to 6th position. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate that again. One last thing to look for is I'm playing a flat 2nd position with the trigger for those B naturals in the next bar. Okay, so look for all those things as I demonstrate. Okay, let's keep moving. Alright, so for the first time after this in bar number 7, we get to an abrupt triplet figure. Okay? So we have to practice that feeling of moving between duple and triple. And what I like to do, of course, is sing first and then play. Okay, so what we're going to do is, at the tempo of quarter note equals 100 beats per minute, we're going to go ahead and sing the regular eighth notes, 1 and 2 and da 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 da, and then alternate between those eighth notes and triplet eighth notes. Da 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 da. Okay? Once you're really comfortable with switching between the 2 feels, then this passage will be much easier. I'd recommend singing through, for instance, measures 6 and 7 before trying to practice them with the positions. Okay, just so you can use the feeling of the time. Next up, we have in high F sharp and 2 Gs. These are in 7th partial. Sorry, 7th partial is naturally flat, so you have to adjust these positions inward. Okay, if you're having trouble hitting that G, you might find that if you're adjusting that 2nd position into sharp 2nd, they'll actually help you hit the note better because it'll be more centered on your horn. Okay, so make sure the F sharp is in a sharp 3rd and the G's are in a sharp 2nd. Alright, moving on to the 3/4 bar in measure 9, we have some accents. Again, I like to sing before I play so that I get the style ingrained inside my ear and get a good mental picture before I try to perform on the instrument. So, we're going to practice that feeling of this rhythm with the accents. Da 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 da. And there we go. It's a lot easier if you sing it first. Alright, let's move on. Okay, the next section that we need to look at is the section of 7/8, 6/8, and 5/8. And something I'd like to point out is, and you'll notice this when in the demonstration that I do of this first part of the first, let's say, section of the piece, is I like to take a big breath at the beginning of measure 13 and hold all the way till after the second beat of measure 16. That's because we have subito dynamics in here. We have a lot of different accents through this section. We have changing time signatures, so I like to discount all of these factors as possible places to push and pull with the time and accuracy, and just go ahead and play through the entire section before taking a breath. I sneak a breath in measure 16. You don't want to take a huge breath because it's in the middle of a musical phrase leading forward into this lyrical section at the end of the first section. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and play this for you. Pay close attention to the accents and the dynamics. Alright, so you see I was bringing out the accents. I was trying to do big dynamics for you. I'll demonstrate it one more time after we talk about another couple things, but really listen for accents, dynamics, especially that subito mezzo piano starting out with an accented downbeat. Okay? The next place that I like to breathe is after beat 1 of bar 17. Okay, and again, this is in the middle of sort of a musical phrase, but if you sneak a breath, it'll keep propelling the entire motion of the melody forward rather than abruptly throwing a breath in and breaking up this phrase that leads into a beautiful transition. Okay, so just sneak a breath between those accented quarter notes in bar 17. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this section one more time for you.